Hey everybody, it's Matt Shu from Upright Health. In today's video, we're going to be looking at an exercise that you can do to help with some shoulder instability. So if you haven't watched any of my other videos on the shoulder, I'll just catch you up really quick. I used to have terrible problems with my right shoulder. I couldn't go up overhead. I couldn't go out to the side. My shoulder felt sloppy, unstable all the time. If I tried to lie down and go to sleep like this, I'd get this grinding, crunching, moving, horrible, unstable feeling in there. And if I ever try to do anything like athletic, like going up overhead and then swinging down, my shoulder would instantly go clunk, and I'd be in pain, really bad pain, for a couple months. So I had a lot of shoulder instability, and the exercise I'm going to show you today is one that really helped in the beginning to start getting things moving again. So before we get started with the exercise, I want to address a concern that comes up for a lot of people whenever they're trying to retrain their bodies to move better, and that's the fear of making things worse. And so I want to point out a couple things if you haven't seen this in other videos of ours. Number one is there are a lot of things that show up in x-rays and MRIs in the shoulder, the hips, the knees, the back, that we generally will tend to will blame for people's pain. And in fact, the scientific literature doesn't actually support that blame. So for example, you can have really bad arthritis in your knees and have no pain there. You could have a labral tear in your shoulder and have absolutely no pain whatsoever. I actually have this piece of paper here. It was really interesting. It's from a client of mine that I've been training now for a few months, and she actually has some issues moving her right shoulder. And so she got her MRI report and her doctor's reports from a couple years back about her shoulders, because she's had problems on her both shoulders for a long time. And one of the things that was really interesting was, she said she thought her right shoulder, the one that she has the most trouble moving, had some serious tears, right? So we looked at her report, and it actually said that it has that her shoulder has complete tears of the supraspinatus and infraspinatus with retraction and muscular atrophy. There's medial dislocation of the biceps, mild acromioclavicular joint degeneration. There's a tear on the upper portion of subscapularis. So basically, she's got all these muscles that have been ripped and torn, and it looks like it's terrible on the acromioclavicular joint, which is this little joint here where the clavicle and the little ledge here from the scapula meet. And so there's all these things that sound absolutely horrible. And it's like, okay, well, that explains why your right shoulder doesn't work well, except, and this is the reason why I'm sharing this with you, that's the MRI report for her left shoulder, and her left shoulder actually works pretty well. So it's really important to mentally not allow, I think, diagnoses and images to get too much into your mindset, right? If you start thinking, well, it's torn, it's ripped, it's shredded, and it can't possibly function well, then you're going to be too afraid to move. And what's worse, never moving and not being able to use your arm and not being able to use your shoulder properly, or maybe going through a little bit of discomfort and gradually learning what your body needs to move better. In my opinion, it's better to experiment and try to get your body to move better over time, because that's how you really get to engage with and enjoy your life. And when I see situations like this, like with Laura, where the images and actual capabilities are completely unrelated, and you see all the studies that show that, then I think, you know what? If I'm talking about my own body, I'm going to do whatever I can to make it work better. And of course, it's up to you to make the decision you want to make about your body. All right, so let's look at the actual exercise. So we're going to start lying down on our backs with our feet on the floor, and we're going to take our hands and put them together like this. So this is the beginning stage. This is the easiest version, and you're going to have the fingers interlaced. Now what we're going to do is start bringing our hands down towards the floor like this, so that we are attempting to get all the way down to the floor. Now, the reason we're interlacing the fingers is so that we can get help. We can spread the work between the muscles of the left and the muscles of the right shoulder. So when I first tried this exercise, I actually just tried it like this, and again, the right shoulder was a big problem for me. So as soon as I got to here, the left went fine, but I started to freak out because this shoulder just felt like it didn't know what the heck it was doing. So I would get here and it was like, ow, ow, I don't know what's happening. And it would just like shake and wiggle and just not be able to go further. And it felt like I was gonna like crunch through something. It felt like something was gonna tear. It just didn't feel good. But if I used a little bit of help, which is what I'm encouraging you to do, then it gave the muscles around that shoulder the chance to figure out what they were supposed to do to control the range of motion. So I would get here and it'd be like, and you know, it's just too much demand, and I would feel scared, and I felt like everything was gonna pop apart. So just use your hand, use the other arm as a helper, and then gently guide it down. And that is how you're going to be able to do the pullover. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure the spine stays in neutral. So a lot of times if people are super tight, they'll tighten the lats, for example, they'll end up having to arch a bunch, and they'll cheat it. Basically, instead of getting shoulder flexion range of motion, you're just trying to lift your rib cage and you're getting spinal extension to kind of fake it. So if you do that with your lower back and your hand touches the floor, what you're actually doing, you'll see when I lower the back down, what you're actually doing is you're cheating the last, could be 10, 20 degrees, maybe even 30 degrees if you can really get good spinal extension. So basically we keep the spine in neutral or totally flat, and then you bring the hands down towards the floor, okay? So you want to just gradually improve the range of motion. A lot of people are going to find it's difficult to even get down that far, and that's the point. If you are trying to improve your shoulder function, improve your range of motion, you have to actually go to places where your shoulder doesn't feel that good. So one of the big things that people run into when they do this is they go, oh man, it's stuck. I should just stop doing this because I'm going to hurt myself. And that's a legitimate concern. You don't want to be jamming hard through things that are uncomfortable, but you do want to gradually improve your range of motion and improve your ability to achieve greater and greater ranges of motion with control. So this is a really easy, good beginner exercise that we usually have people do for 3 sets of 5 to 15. If things are really sensitive and the shoulder just gets really confused, we'll obviously go more towards the lower end of the repetition range. And then once you get more comfortable, it's generally pretty quick where you start to feel like, okay, I get it. I understand how to do this. And then you can start moving to the higher end of the rep scheme. So also in terms of like how many times a day, it's probably a good idea to do this several times a day. But if for some reason you feel like, my shoulder doesn't like doing this too much, then you need to use your own best judgment. But generally you need to realize that when you are going through a regular work day, your body is putting the shoulders in a bad position quite often. So it's pretty helpful to then remind your body, hey, this is what I want my shoulders to be able to do. This is what we do, and we do it on a regular basis. That helps free up some of that stiffness and helps get you that range of motion back. A couple of progression ideas to help you with this exercise. You want to start off using the fingers interlaced to make that the easiest, and then the next harder one is to just have the fingers together and the palms together. So now you're getting less assistance from the other side. You're still getting some help. Okay, so just like that. And then when you want to make this a little harder, then you just spread them apart. So now you don't have your hands touching each other at all, and the shoulder muscles are controlling the individual shoulders independently, right? And then if you want to make this even more difficult, then you go ahead and take a weight like so, and then you're just going to bring it down like that, okay? So just like that, easy peasy. Of course, don't go jumping into using the weight first thing. You want to start off by doing the easy version and then progressing to the harder and harder version. So hopefully you guys find that helpful. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure you click the like button and be sure to subscribe to the Upright Health YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button. You can also scroll down into the description section where you can find links to the video that I mentioned earlier. Also, you'll find a link to the Shoulder Fix program, which will help you retrain your shoulders for better mobility and comfort. Also, find us on Facebook and give us a like there because, you know, you like us. And finally, I want to say thank you to Pam for pledging on Patreon to support Upright Health. If you'd like to help us make our videos without any commercials on YouTube, please head on over to our Patreon page and make a pledge of $1, $5, $10, or $1 million. Whatever you'd like to give us is A-OK. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you remember that pain sucks. Life shouldn't.